Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Welcome to another important episode of the Andrew Parker Show. This episode, number 402, is all about my recent trip to the Jewish state of Israel. It was a 12-day trip to the Jewish state, and it was, having been to Israel now probably nearly 20 times, it was one of the most special trips I have ever had to the Holy Land, to the Promised Land. It was a beautiful trip in many, many ways. Again, I was there for about 12 days. Most of my time was in Tel Aviv. And seeing the people, it just struck me. It really hit me. Spending time in Tel Aviv, walking the streets. It's a great walking city. If you haven't been there, you really need to go. It's one of the great cities in the world. But even during this time, when Israel is fighting for its life, when the little state, which is about the size, once again, of the state of New Jersey, to give you a sense, and the Arab world is about the size of the rest of the United States in comparison. It's a similar comparison, New Jersey to the rest of the United States. And there are now just 10 million people in the state of Israel, a small geographic area. And Tel Aviv is right there on the Mediterranean, one of the great beaches, urban beaches anywhere in the world. And it's just beautiful, and it's miraculous to see the burgeoning cosmopolitan nature of Tel Aviv in the midst of all of the wars that have been fought to survive by the Jewish people in Israel. So the Israelis that I met, walked amongst while in Israel, while in Tel Aviv in particular, were just seemed to me so resilient, had so much joy about them, even in the face of air raid sirens, missile attacks. There were a couple while I was staying in Tel Aviv. I felt very safe and secure. Everyone just seemed to be, as it were, rowing in the same direction. Now, I get there's disputes over policy issues, like in few places around the world. They get very vitriolic and heated as people hold their opinions very strongly. But it was just a great energy. And I'm talking about, and it was amazing to see during the day, so many people, most of them from age 20 to 35, I would say. Couples, families, little kids running around. There are parks and playgrounds throughout Tel Aviv. It's a beautiful city in that way, and many, many little kids with their parents. Beautiful young adults. And again, just a sense of joy, a sense of gratitude, thankfulness to again have the ability, the opportunity to live in the Holy Land, to provide freedom and opportunity for everyone, no matter what religion or culture they're from, in the state of Israel by reestablishing Israel from millennia ago. And again, I felt very safe and secure. I felt as though if there ever were an issue, everyone would come to your aid and assist, as it just seemed people were rowing in the same direction. I rented a car during this trip for 3 days, and I traveled. I went to the north. It really only takes a couple of hours to get from Tel Aviv to the north, to the Golan Heights, to the Syrian border, to Kiryat Shmona, which is in the north, near the Lebanese border, to Metula, which is right on the Lebanese border. And then from Tel Aviv south, it's about 2 hours that way down to the Gaza envelope. It's another period of time to the southern tip of Israel, which is a lot, but uh, but to the Gaza envelope and the activity there was another 2 hours, and I went there as well. So I traveled first to the Golan Heights, which overlooks uh, the Galilee and the Jordan Valley. Uh, the Jordan River flows. It's really in most places really quite small and a little creek, if you will, at this point. But beautiful Jordan Valley. And of course, when aggressive enemies of the state of Israel controlled the Golan Heights, they would fire rockets down from the hilltops and the plateaus above into the Jordan Valley, where farmers were Israeli farmers were located and their families, and destroy farm fields, destroy any ability to live peacefully. But with the Golan Heights now in the hands of the state of Israel, there is peace and calm in the Jordan Valley. There is peace and calm in the north, other than what is happening in Syria and Lebanon, whether it be a civil war in Syria and whether it be Hezbollah in Lebanon. Uh, and so I went to the Syrian border. I was going to drive. I was driving down a gravel dirt path. I was going to drive to the fence line with Syria. Uh, and as I drove down this gravel path, there was a sign alongside the road. It was somewhat faint. It had been out there for some time, you could tell. But it was, I stopped and took a look at it, and it said, "Beware of landmines." It was at that point that I decided, well, I don't think I'm going to take this sojourn. So I went to another spot, a hilltop, and was able to see certainly the fence, a town across the border in Syria. I then traveled from there in the north through a number of Arab and Druze villages. Druze fight and support the state of Israel uh, uh, really quite bravely, consistently. Uh, Traveled through a number of those towns along the border to Lebanon and to the fence line in Lebanon, and I could see across a field an Arab village in Lebanon which had basically been leveled. as there were many Hezbollah fighters in that town. In addition, the Israeli town on the side of the fence that I was traveling, called Metula, is one of the, or is the northernmost town in Israel along the Lebanese border. And it had a number of destroyed or damaged homes and residences and other public buildings as well. It was very quiet in Metula as most of the people have left and not yet returned, unfortunately. Um, but there was quite a bit of military activity in that area as well. I then drove back to Tel Aviv, was there, and the following day, I went with a friend of mine who is a rabbi, a Chabad Orthodox rabbi, who was delivering mezuzahs, which are the uh, prayer of protection, if you will, for rooms or spaces of Jews, and he was delivering them to the Israeli Defense Forces to put on the doorposts, which is where mezuzahs go, on the doorpost of the room or residence, and of the sleeping quarters of the Israeli Defense Forces in each of the camps, the military bases down in the Gaza envelope. So I went with him and sponsored the placement of these mezuzahs uh, for the IDF. So we went to a few military bases. It's fascinating. I won't talk about everything that I saw there, but at one point we were right on the border with Gaza, and we drove down to the fence line. Uh, we later learned that we were not supposed to have done that, and it wasn't particularly safe. But we went down to the fence line and walked up what was clearly a bulldozed, created hill of dirt. It was probably 50 yards long and had been pushed to create a hilltop. And on the top of it, there were thousands of casings, rifle casings, ammunition casings. Um, uh, so it was clearly used. We were close enough at that point to what was going on in the town on the other side of the fence in Gaza to hear machine gun fire, to hear rocket fire, and to see plumes of smoke off in the distance. Um, we returned back to the military base. From there, a couple of the bases and placed the mezuzahs and met with a number of Israeli defense military, including rank and file soldiers who were, 20-year-olds, bright eyed, protecting their country, uh, doing it only because they have to. I spoke to several of them. Most spoke English. Uh, they offered me a tour of the tanks that they were working on. This was in an engineering department, and these tanks were out in the field. I was able to climb up on one. I felt a bit like Mike Dukakis as I looked down into the hole or where the driver was of the tank. Uh, but it was up close and personal. And again, uh, I felt safe. I felt like the IDF and everything that I saw, including the computer rooms that I was allowed into, uh, uh, I felt like the IDF really had a handle on taking care of the issues, and everyone was talking about making sure that strategic targets were the focus and not just the destruction of the communities in Gaza. Uh, and this was consistently the message. After that day in Gaza, I then spent, or not in Gaza, but along the Gaza envelope, I spent some time in one of the beautiful national parks in the state of Israel, uh, with a number of caves and uh, findings from biblical times and the beautiful landscape of Judea and Samaria, which some call the West Bank. And that was wonderful as well. So the trip as a whole was fantastic. This episode of the Andrew Parker Show is going to give you further insight into it, as I had some live coverage from Israel. You're going to see some of what I've just been describing. And I really do hope you enjoy it. As always, go to the andrewparkershow.com, subscribe, follow us, and enjoy the hundreds of episodes that we have been lucky enough, fortunate enough to create and discuss each episode, politics, Israel, and the law. Text us, by the way, at 952-522-2818. Yes, indeed. We are here for you. Ask us questions, complaints. We'll deal with it all. Again, 952-522-2818. Love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to your neighbor. Thank you for joining us. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you a business owner? Are you losing sleep because you feel your partner isn't carrying their weight, or because you no longer share the same vision or values? Are you no longer comfortable going into your own office? Are you walking on eggshells in the company you built? This is Chris Daniels, founding partner of Parker Daniels Keyboard LLC, a premier litigation law firm headquartered in downtown Minneapolis. For more than 30 years, I've specialized in business litigation and have helped hundreds of business owners resolve troubling business disputes. As a former certified public accountant, I get to the heart of the dispute, including financial issues. Business divorce can be messy, time-consuming, and costly, but doing nothing can cost you a lot more. Not just money, but emotionally, physically, and in your personal life. If you and your business partner no longer see eye to eye, and you're eager to take a proactive approach and make a change, please call me at 612-355-4100 and schedule a consultation. Or visit our website at www.parkerdk.com.
Looking to grow your wealth with exclusive opportunities? At True North Private Investments, they focus on alternative investments designed for forward-thinking individuals just like you. Explore private equity, private real estate, and private credit opportunities that go beyond traditional markets. And it doesn't stop there. Their experts craft unique tax strategies to help maximize your returns and minimize your federal and state tax liabilities. Your future deserves innovation. Your portfolio deserves True North. Call them today at 619-455-0275 or visit investtruenorth.com to get started. Hello, how are you? This is another episode of the Andrew Parker Show, a travel episode. Indeed, I left, well, for a day ago. It's been a full day of travel. Uh, Minneapolis to Boston, Boston to Athens, Athens to Tel Aviv, where I sit at a coffee shop, Wake Up Coffee in Tel Aviv. Beautiful neighborhood. Hundreds, seems like thousands of kids running around and playing, both in the park and in the neighborhood, enjoying the early evening. Tel Aviv. It's just beautiful. You know, before I left, I was asked by many, aren't you concerned? Aren't you nervous? Will you feel safe? And I dare say I feel safer here than most any place else that I could be, for a number of reasons, not least of which is it's like family here. You walk through the streets, whether you know anyone or not, you feel that sense of security that everyone is here to help everyone else, and it has really been that way since the very first time I came to Israel in 1983. In my experience for more than 40 years, of course, that has existed through the millennia for Jews around the world, no matter where they have been. But certainly since the reestablishment of the State of Israel. Uh, and unfortunately, and it is very unfortunate because the Jewish people, and in particular the Israelis, want to be a light unto the nations, a moral society, and they strive for that every day, society that treats all with respect and dignity. Unfortunately, there is evil in the world. We've talked about that on the Andrew Parker Show, on the previous predecessor, the Victory Hour, many, many times. And it is how you deal with evil that often can set the foundation for the moral construct of your culture. If you ignore evil, or worse yet, if you unwittingly support it, uh, or intentionally support it, which many on college campuses and on the left, even in Congress, are doing in supporting the Nazi-like actions of Hamas and Hamas leadership and what they have done since October 7, 2023. You still have support for it, massive amount of support, and it allows Hamas to continue to hold hostages and not let them out. When they see support in the Western world, in the United States, in the U.S. Congress, it has an enormous negative impact for the lives of those hostages still being held. So I'm going to be traveling down to the Gaza envelope. I'm going to be traveling to the north in the next few days, delivering mezuzahs as well as tefillin, prayer wrappings, and prayer books to members of the IDF to protect them, God willing. So I will drop another travel episode soon, and we'll put these together as it's going to be a 10-day trip here in the Holy Land, the Promised Land, Eretz Yisrael, the State of Israel. It's Andrew Parker, and you're listening to The Andrew Parker Show, episode number 400 something something. Live from Israel as we talk politics, Israel, and the law every week, every episode on The Andrew Parker Show. Thank you once again for joining us. We are live from the Jewish state of Israel. And it is beautiful indeed. We are on a walkway in the state of Israel here, and it's kind of like in New York, and a cross between the High Line and Venice Beach in many ways, running down to the Mediterranean Sea in the great city of Tel Aviv is where we are broadcasting today. In a minute, I am going to talk to you about the war. The war? What are you talking? Which war? A lot of wars going. No, there's one war of civilization, and it's going on right now. And while Israel is at the point of the spear, don't lose sight of the fact. Don't be fooled by those who claim it's a policy decision here or there. We've got to, reel in the state of Israel because they're going overboard. No, this is the beginning of, not the very beginning, because it's been going on for quite some time, but near the beginning of the war of civilizations. Is it going to be a Judeo-Christian world with ethics and moral construct, the rule of law, or is it going to be anarchy, chaos, death and destruction, oppression? Is it going to be a meritocracy where merit and human dignity and respect is at the top of the list? So we're going to talk about the war and what I'm seeing here in Israel. But first, I want to talk about this little country, this little state here in the Middle East, the only democracy in the Middle East, a democracy that elected the Bibi Netanyahu coalition overwhelmingly in the last election. A people that have a foundation, one of the most liberal people. I'm not talking about liberal in terms of Republican, Democrat type liberal. I'm talking about the academic term liberal in terms of how to order a society with liberal foundations, joining together, finding ways in which the government can assist and other ways in which the government gets out of the way to improve the lot for the common good. And I'll tell you that it's the type of discussion that is so important right now, and it's going on in the state of Israel daily and very vociferously. You think the dispute and discord in the U.S. is bad. It's been going on like that with polarization for years and years here in Israel. But they survive, and they survive strongly. And what a joyous people here. As I walk the streets of Tel Aviv, it is really amazing to see in the midst of October 7th and what occurred then, and the knife to the heart of a culture, of a society, but yet they live, and not just live, but in the streets teeming with young people, age 15 to 30. That's almost everyone I see as I walk the city. Many with little kids pushing strollers, many walking together, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. And it's beautiful to see, truly beautiful, and laughing and music and parks filled with people. So, does it feel like a war zone? No, it doesn't at all. And as it shouldn't. It feels like a beautiful society, beautiful culture. Now, in a couple of days, I am going to be going down to Gaza, right on the border between Israel and Gaza, that was attacked viciously on October, and I will do another episode at that time. But Israel is safe, secure, and strong. And if you have the chance, you definitely should come and see for yourself. The Jews have been in Israel for more than 3,000 years. This is not a dispute or a debate about whose land this is. And frankly, the battle between radical Islam and the Jewish people is not about land, even though they would like you to believe it is. It is about a way of life. It is about a culture. It is about freedom and making your own way with love toward your fellow versus chaos, death, and destruction, which radical Islam is about, and putting the other, the infidel, under their thumb. In Israel, everyone has equal rights. Arabs, Muslims are elected to the Knesset. They are on the Supreme Court. They are leaders in the state of Israel, and many Arabs, many Muslim Israelis fully support the government of Israel. It's not two laws, one applying to one people, another applying to others. No, it is all one law with the citizens of Israel being governed. Let me just briefly talk about what's been on my mind as it relates to what we are seeing since October 7th. Let me start by saying in World War II, did we demand that electricity be provided to the Germans or to the Nazis or to the Japanese or to the Mussolini Italians while we were at war with them? Did we demand that we provide food and humanitarian aid during World War II and the attacks on their cities? Did we halt and pull back and not require complete victory and unconditional surrender and suggest that not engage in war against the Nazi regime, the Nazi culture, the Nazi belief system? No, it was a total destruction policy. The firebombing of Dresden, what was that? What was the complete destruction to rubble of Berlin? Well, they were our enemy. Not only were they our enemy, they were trying to expand across the world this ideology of death and destruction. In many ways, different ideology, but similar in some respects. But in many ways, the spread across the world of radical Islam through a means of terrorism is going on right now and has been going on for some time. And October 7th brought it to, the Walt Disney Peacock with all of its color. It brought it to Technic. October 7th did. And the heinous acts and atrocities of October 7th, which I don't have to get into again on this episode as I have cataloged it many times. And so when that occurs, you would think that the civilized world would come together as the Allies did to fight against it. Maybe not with their blood, their soldiers, but in full-throated support as to who are the allies and who are the axis of clear understanding. You would think that's the easy part. No, we don't even have that. We don't even have that in one of the major political parties in the United States, the Democratic, as they beat up as much or more on Israel as they do on the Palestinians that support Hamas. And many, 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 if not most or all, support Hamas. They support the PLO. PLO is a little better than Hamas, a little different. Yes, they hate one another. They can't get together and support one another and join forces. No, they can't. But in terms of their fundamental ideology of the destruction of the state of Israel, ultimately, Hamas wants it immediately. The PLO, overtime. And they speak of it, and they pay those that slay Jews. They pay them. The PLO. Not Hamas. There's been legislation in the United States strongly opposing this. Doesn't matter. They continue. So these are Palestinians in mainstream. They continue with this radical Islamic foundation. That's what this war is about. This complete destruction. It's been couched in terms of the complete destruction of Hamas and its power structure. And of course, that is critical. And of course, they were the evildoers with a vast majority of the civilian population in Gaza, from teenagers on up. And it's horrific how they have raised their kids to hate Jews and how they have glorified Shaheed, the Shaheeds who go and engage in suicide bombing. Glorified. And now the Israelis get blamed. They're killing kids. They're killing young kids. No. And if they do, they get court-martialed. They get brought in. There's a trial, a full justice system. Unless these kids are posing a direct threat, like aiming a machine gun at the head of an IDF soldier or carrying and delivering rocket launchers. I was at an event yesterday. Some of my son's good friends were there, and they had just gotten back from service in the IDF on duty. One of them, 320 days on duty, some days off in between, with deployment upon deployment upon deployment. So I asked him, tell me, this is a hue and a cry around the world that the IDF is killing children as a hobby during this whole process. He says, well, I'm sure I don't have to tell you, but that is absolutely not true. And it's not allowed. And there are only few exceptions when it would be allowed. And this is not a political person. This is someone who, because everyone has to enroll, he enrolled. Now, he does believe strongly in the work that is being done by the IDF. But beyond that, there's no evidence of it that it is happening. None. What about humanitarian aid? What about humanitarian aid? The hue and cry from the Democratic Party and from the West, from Macron, Keir Starmer, Britain, the Canadian Prime Minister Carney, all coming out strongly against the state of Israel. What the hell? What are these useful idiots? What are they doing? This is crazy. It's insane. They're saying, no, 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 no. You can't wage war against the Nazis. No. Yeah, they're trying to, their constitution says kill all the Jews, effectively. Yeah, they want the complete and total destruction of your country. They say it and they act on it and engage in heinous Nazi-like conduct and actions. But we side with them. Yeah, you can't carry out war. This is war. Yeah, there are casualties. And it will be over when there is, no, hear this, because this is it. And this is what it must be. If you are a person of good faith and of understanding a world order that stands for good, you have to fight for that sometimes because there is evil, and the evil must be stamped out. This war will end with the unconditional surrender of these radical Islamic terrorists who have so damaged the Palestinian people as well as the Jewish people and have caused strife, discord, death, and destruction, not just in the Middle East, but beyond, including on 9/11, just a different group of these Islamic radicals. And if we keep fighting to a stalemate, if we keep fighting where they feel rewarded by their conduct, it will continue. No, not this time. Jewish people are going to stand up if no one else in the world supports them and defend themselves to the end. And that defense means, ultimately, the unconditional surrender so that a truly peaceful Gaza, truly peaceful West Bank, a truly peaceful Palestinian state can be created. And yes, there may be death and destruction in order to get there, but beyond that, there can be peace. And if we don't do that, there will not be, and there will be far more death and destruction, far more death and destruction over the years that'll continue. So it has to stop, and it must stop now. Between this war, following on, generation of education that loves thy neighbor, and it's not based on a Hamas constitution, but is based on loving thy neighbor. Following that, there will be two peoples with countries living side by side in peace. That's how you get there. And it will be a difficult road indeed, but it must be traversed. The Israelis are going to do it, and they're going to do it with the Democratic Party or without it. And right now, I am disgusted by the statements made by Democratic senators and congressmen, many of them. I'm disgusted by the fact that pro-Hamas, pro-U.S. university and college campus supporters of Hamas coming out of the Democratic Party in full support of those protesters, defending the administration of universities to be able to get support from the federal government. No, Trump's pulling out of all that support. And that is opposed by including our Minnesota senators, my very own. And I'm disgusted by it. I don't care that it's Donald Trump and you hate him, and therefore, no matter what he says, you're going to oppose. The federal government does not have to support private institutions which allow the open and vocal support for Hamas, killers of Jews. The federal government in the United States does not have to support private institutions, nor allow them to bring in those and march in support of those who support and relish in the death and killing of Jews. What would it be? What would it be if on college campuses there were protests in support of the KKK, openly, broadly, wildly in support of the KKK, with people covering their face with hoods like the keffiyeh that they're covering their face with now on college camp? What would it be? Would the Democratic Party be out in support of this? Or would they oppose those who wanted to reel it in? Would they demand that it be reeled in and be ended? Because it certainly causes incitement to commit murder. We have just seen that. And when it reaches that level, and even before it reaches that, the First Amendment boundary is breached. Speech that incites is not protected, even under the current law. But I would say that the boundaries of the First Amendment and the Supreme Court's role in determining those boundaries at the present time is absolutely critical. And we need the Supreme Court to step up
and to say, no, we do not allow free speech when it comes to inciting violence, when it comes to promoting the death of Jews or of blacks for that matter, as I refer back to the analogy I just talked about. And the Democratic Party supports these protests in support of Hamas and support of the death and killing. That is wrong. The Democratic Party continues to wrap its banner of one of the great, if not the greatest party in the history of the United States, albeit we'll ignore all those years they supported slavery. They wrap the banner around those who openly support Hamas. They wrap the banner around those in Congress. Remember, there are 536 that really effectively get a vote in the entire country. 135 in the U.S. House of Representatives, 100 in the U.S., and one president. Those are the people that we elect, either from one party or another in the main. One of those parties elects, nominates, puts their banner around, and supports with money, with votes, and all of their infrastructure, many members who are anti Semitic, many members who support the destruction of the state of Israel, many members who lie repeatedly about the state of Israel. And that is just wrong. And the Democratic Party doesn't need to do it. They need to stand up to it. They need to say that it is not part of their party or part of their platform. They haven't done it. Instead, their hatred and vitriol against Donald Trump because they think they can get votes that way becomes their mantra. And it is a shame. Ethics, the unethical conduct of it is a shame. It's just wrong. You know, I always think about, as I digress for a minute, when Bill Clinton was being impeached, you'll remember, from speaking untruths after taking an oath in court. He was being impeached, and the Republicans were marching toward impeachment. Joe Lieberman, fellow Democrat of Bill Clinton and a friend of Bill Clinton, member of the Democratic caucus, gave a speech, and he was the first to come out in opposition to the leader of his party because he understood the ethical violation that had occurred. And his ethics trumped all else and carried the day for him. And he had to speak out because the rule of law and the importance of the oath and truth is really at the foundation of much that we do and stand for here in this country. How many others are Lieberman like? How many in the Democratic Party are Lieberman like? I mean, it shouldn't even be that because it's disgusting to support these certain members of the Democratic Party. Ilhan Omar's, Rashida Tlaib's, who lie repeatedly about the state of Israel and what it stands for, what it has done and been a part of. No, it's not true, period. It's not true that electricity has been cut off to Gaza. In fact, electricity has been provided to Gaza. And as I started with at the top of this episode, coming to you live from the state of Israel, electricity has been provided to Gaza. And again, as I started with at the top of this episode, where I was talking about whether during World War II, electricity was provided to the Germans as the Allies marched across Europe. You know, we provided them, yes, we provided them with food and fuel and humanitarian aid while we were marching across Europe. No, it didn't happen. Did we provide medical support and assistance like the Israelis do repeatedly for Palestinians? Some Palestinians who are actually leaders in the cause of murdering Israeli children, raping Israeli women, murdering and killing young kids and old Holocaust survivors in Israel. The state of Israel provides medical support, treatment to people like that who do that because it's their ethic. It's above and beyond what any other country would do. They did it with Sinwar, saved his life with a brain surgery, and then released him back to do what he did on October 7th in leading the horrific attack. This is a mantra of lie that comes out of a UN that is governed and controlled by Islamic, most often radical countries that control the vote in the UN. But even in the much sadder case, because, you know, Islamic countries, they just do not have the same moral foundation. Everybody, you know, wants to live in the same wonderful, good, truth, love thy neighbor world. No, that's not true. If your neighbor is an infidel, you may well not believe that. Now, many Muslims do, no matter what. They don't put their religion upon others. But there are many radical Islamic radicals who do, in fact, not believe in this sort of moral ethic that we do. They just don't. And there are many countries that vote based on that. But you would think our Western European allies, in the UK, from France, just to name two, or boy, the Irish, they're the worst, or even now Australia or Canada, that they would understand this. No, they don't. They don't for economic reasons. They don't because of their trade relations with some of these oil-rich countries, and they don't for other reasons, being often called useful idiots as they continue to put pressure on Israel, not on the Nazi-like regime, Palestinians. It's my opinion. A man walking his dog. It's a bulldog, an English bulldog. Oh, boy. Here along the beautiful walkway in Tel Aviv, Israel. Western Europe, the Allies should come together against this Nazi-like regime that stands for oppression, destruction, and death, which is what it does stand for. And it's not about land at all. Hamas Constitution makes that clear. PLO has made statements many, many times. Mahmoud Abbas, the quote-unquote moderate. This is not about land. If this were about land for peace, there would have been a deal decades ago, because the Israelis have offered 5, 6 different deals over the last many years that provide everything that would be needed, and they were rejected. Bill Clinton and other Democrats who sat at the table have said so, and they have seen the lying and deceit of the PLO. And we shouldn't forget, these are murderers. Just one example is Munich 1972, the PLO murdering entire 11-member Israeli Olympic team. Disgusting. What a disgrace during the Olympics. It's hardly ever talked about now. Hardly ever talked about. Why? Why is what's going on today going on? It's crazy. The victims are being attacked. Israel is the victim. People were murdered. They were attacked. Unsolicited attack. And some of the most heinous atrocities committed against children, little babies, Holocaust survivors, and across the board on October 7th. And the Israelis are the ones being attacked. Oh, well, they've gone too far. What does that mean? Gone too far. Oh, you shouldn't have attacked Berlin the way you did. You went too far. I mean, you know. Well, you shouldn't have marched across Europe the way you did. You should have only put the fire out 50%, and then see what happens. No, that's not going to be the case. Regardless of what the United States says or any other country, the Jews cannot rely anymore on those of good faith in the West to protect them, because they have seen what happens. And the Jews themselves have made the mistake of putting out 50% of the fire, only to have the fire start again and again and again and again. And it's people being murdered. No, the fire must be put out 100%. And if the West can't stand for it, they'll have to deal with it. This war will come to an end. And if it is put out 100%, there will be peace. If it is not, there won't be peace. And the reason there won't be peace is because of the hatred and destruction. The hatred of the Jewish people and the attempted destruction of the Jewish people and the state of Israel, the Jewish people's ancestral homeland that we have occupied and been in, lived in. The word occupied is so, now it's all over. You go to Wikipedia and you put in Palestine, it says it's a country. I mean, that's what Wikipedia says. Palestine's a country. It isn't a country, and it's never been a country. It's never been recognized as a country. But that's what people write. It's the new mantra. It's the revisionist history, complete revisionist history. Palestinians rejected the partition plan put out there by the world. The Jews accepted it, and only it was taking the little pieces that it was given, and that was it. Much smaller than the current state, and that was it. No, that wasn't good enough. The Arabs, Palestinians attacked. They were not kicked out by the Jews. They were told to leave by the Arab countries so that they could destroy the people of Israel. That didn't happen. The Jews lived, and now they claim, well, that's our land. No, it's not. It is not. But this isn't, again, this is not a fight. This is not a war over land. If it were, it would have been over long ago. Listening to the Andrew Parker Show, we talk politics, Israel, and the law. We are coming to you live from the state of Israel, where we are at the point of the spear of the war of civilizations, of whether the West is going to succumb through appeasement and weakness to a very dark medieval world governed by radical Islamic ideology. Are we going to succumb to it or not? And what the Israelis have realized is, as the firemen, the fire must be put out 100%. No half measures, because they do not work. They do not work for peace, and we need to fight for peace. Thank you. Until next time, love thy neighbor. Hello, it's another episode of the Andrew Parker Show, travel show, live from the state of Israel. I am showing you now a hilltop, which is on the Golan Heights, and at the top of this hill, looking out just over it, is the border with Syria. I'll stop and show you a few other shots of the border of Syria, where there has been substantial fighting over the last several months. Rockets being launched by Hezbollah into Israel and from Lebanon, but also from Syria. Not so many attacks really on the state of Israel from Syria of late, as they have resulted their civil war has somewhat been resolved, although how the Trump administration is handling it is a whole nother episode that we can't discuss. Anyway, this hilltop, standing on top, looks into the state of or into Syria, and you might wonder, why am I not standing on top of the hill showing Syria and what is going on there? Well, I just read a sign that said landmines and minefields ahead. And so the dirt road that I am on, I decided not to travel to the top. We'll have another portion of this travel episode for you, as today I am going from the Israeli-Syrian border across to the Israeli-Lebanese border, and tomorrow I will be down in the Gaza envelope and hopefully be able to deliver some more thoughts, opinions, pictures. So stay tuned. Hello again, it's Andrew Parker for another segment of our trip to Israel travel segment. We talk politics, Israel, and the law. Every episode, we're well into the 400s now of episodes of the Andrew Parker Show. Go to theandrewparkershow.com. Sign up, subscribe, follow YouTube, social media, whatever you use, and you can get the Andrew Parker Show anytime. We are in the Jewish state of Israel, and we are presently very near the Israeli-Syrian border. This is called the Valley of Orchards. Behind me are a number of hilltops with lookouts and various military posts looking down onto this valley. And if you can see far off into the distance is a city. Rather, well, I wouldn't call it a large city, but right in front of that, a bit closer, is a body of water, lake of not very big size, and just across from it is a city that's Al Quneitra, a Syrian city. So that is the border, just on the other side of that body of water, if you can make it out. There is another Syrian town off in the distance, and you can see two or three up in the hills off in the distance. So this is how close we are to the border, an area that has, well, not recently, but has seen fighting many, many times. And hopefully we are moving to peace. On our journey in northern Israel in the Golan Heights, I will give you a sense of town and where we are. This is very near the Israeli-Syrian border, I believe less than a mile, certainly. And when we get close to the border, even closer, I will come back to you. But it's a vibrant town. Staunch supporters of the Jewish state of Israel live in Ada. They are Druze, Muslim, Arabs, citizens of the state of Israel, staunch fighters in support of the state of Israel. And you'll recall that missiles from Syria killed a number of Druze children playing in a park, not in this town, but in a neighboring town. And it was a great tragedy. The Israeli government responded in full force. Andrew Parker with the Andrew Parker Show, live from Israel, as we have had a great week here in the Jewish state of Israel, starting off with just spending time amongst the people of Israel, the joy that they bring in and show everyone I've met. It's been amazing, particularly in light of the current circumstances. But in addition, the beauty of Israel. And I just came from the north. It is spectacular. Hills to mountains, greenery so lush and beautiful. I was on the Syrian-Israeli border, as if you've been watching the last few recordings, you will see. And now I'm on the Israeli-Lebanese border, and you can see off in the distance over this grove of plantings right in front of us. Off in the distance, you can see a cement wall. On the other side of town, that is Lebanon. You have the green, lush fields in the valley below, and then brown area. And beyond that cement wall is Lebanon. Hezbollah's Lebanon. Lebanon supported through Syria by the Iranians for decades now. It's not the Lebanon we once knew as the Riviera of the Middle East on the Mediterranean. While it still certainly exists on the sea, it has become a terror state. But maybe those days are over. An Iranian satellite state, no more. Syria's leadership has shifted and changed. Maybe worse, maybe better. We don't know yet. Donald Trump is taking measure of that. But it couldn't be much worse in terms of funneling weaponry to Hezbollah in Lebanon. And we're looking at Lebanon right now from the Israeli border. I just traveled from the Golan Heights, which is mainly the Syrian border, although Golan also touches on Lebanon, certainly. And I am now in Metula, the northernmost land of the state of Israel, and borders Lebanon. Metula took great casualties during the bombings by Hezbollah from Lebanon into Israel. Many of them not responded to, till ultimately the response became severe by the Israelis into Lebanon and all but ending Hezbollah's reign in Lebanon, though more work needs to be done, certainly. The beautiful people of Israel, the beautiful land of the state of Israel, a land of milk and honey for sure. Amazing, and thank God. For more Smart Plain Talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor,
duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments. Mark Twain once quipped, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. When you are lied about and it spreads, the resulting mayhem and destruction can be, and often is, disastrous." Hi, this is Andrew Parker, co-founder of the Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm. I recently handled a high-profile defamation lawsuit on behalf of a luxury home real estate agent whose business was decimated by falsehoods spread about him. After nearly 2 years of litigation and 2 weeks of trial, the jury came back with a verdict of more than $2 million for our client. Parker Daniels Keyboard. We litigate cases, we try cases, and we win cases. With a record of excellence in achieving extraordinary results, Parker Daniels Keyboard lawyers have consistently won huge verdicts for its clients in the areas of defamation, civil rights violations, regulatory battles, and intellectual property theft. For wise counsel and winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, premier law firm in downtown Minneapolis. Are you ready to take your wealth strategy to the next level? At True North Private Investments, they focus on alternative investments designed to help high net worth individuals achieve financial freedom. Diversify your portfolio with opportunities in private equity, real estate, and private credit, reducing exposure to volatile markets. And with their expert-crafted tax strategies, you'll unlock potential benefits that help you keep more of what you've earned. Smart investments, real results. Call True North today at 619-455-0275 or visit investtruenorth.com to learn more.